Want to have a chat with Mikis in the dungeon? Apply at contact@keramitica.com.
So welcome, Gregory, to episode 2 of Dungeon Chats. Chats about things, anything, whatsoever, with commonsensical answers full of magic. So we've been listening to comments from the first one. So everybody commented that they would like to know a little bit about the person that I'm talking with. So to start with, I'm Mikis. I'm the big fat bald Greek and the dancing bear that answers any question instantly, without hesitation, and in the way that a 5-year-old can understand it. What about you?
Yeah, hey everybody, I'm Greg Vandemark, and I did my first workshop with Mikis, the Choice OS workshop, back in 2018. And prior to that, I can tell you I was pretty depressed, pretty stuck in my life. And that workshop was unbelievably transformational for my life and has helped me create the realities of my life that I enjoy today. Since that time, I took an advanced workshop in 2020, just before COVID. And again, that just helped further propel my life, my happiness. And so I'm super excited to be here, Mikis, and to be able to chat with you more about all this today.
Great. And you now have a couple of kids and are happily married.
Yes.
One of them is really fresh. I just saw the pictures lately. So how does that feel?
We've definitely got our hands full, Mikis, at home. And it's, it's funny because you and I talked about a month ago, and I'd shared with you how, we were just a little bit concerned because we have this amazing, fantastic 1.5-year-old boy, Phoenix, and he's so happy, he's so amazing, love him so much, but he's getting a little clingy to mom, which I think is somewhat, a normal tendency around this age. And we just thought, well, having this other baby right around this time, it's going to take mama's attention away. And you had this really great advice for us to actually put them, you're like, hey, this might be controversial, but like put them in the same room together. And you're like, I'm not going to lie, it might be hard or challenging the first little bit. And it was for the first couple nights, but it actually was a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. I thought it might have been weeks, but Phoenix was kids are so adaptable. And anyway, that's just been a really great little piece of advice that now they're starting to bond. And he's not jealous of the baby. He just always says, baby, baby. And so I'm really grateful for the way that's already started to unfold here.
Nowadays we treat everybody as very fragile and ready to go into deep trauma if somebody sneezes the wrong way. And we're actually creating weak children and weak people that have no resilience. We have a new kitten. It's not the same as babies, but we have a new kitten. And our cat, Sushi, is very, very jealous. And it's like the same thing with a baby, right? There's a new one in the territory. And the thing is, she's got to live with it. And if we prolong it, and if we kind of like are worried about her, like psychological issues, this is going to prolong, and it's going to be a thing for life. Whereas if we have the attitude that this is life, shit happens, and she's got to get over it, already it's like a week and she's starting to warm up to him and get over it. We have a very big tendency to overtake care of everybody, and that makes people weak. Nietzsche used to say, whatever doesn't kill me makes me stronger. And the question is, do we want weak children that are going to have trouble when they go to their first sleepover? They're going to have trouble when they go to kindergarten, and they're going to miss mommy. They're going to have trouble later when they have to go to a summer camp. And we're going to have to take care of them forever. or do we want to fortify them? So all these things mean nothing to them and they brush them off and they're powerful human beings. It's a very important question, I think, because basically what I believe is that we parents, not only parents, but society as a whole, we want to alleviate our guilt and be good people to the detriment of the ones that we want to love. Because if we convince them that they're weak and they have to be taken care about everything, then we create weak people that will suffer forever. All I've seen in my life, because I have two boys as well who are now men, is that we associated when our kids were a young age with people with kids, because that's what you do. Once your life changes and you have kids, you start your social life becomes with people with kids of the similar age. And we saw that the kids that were more mollycoddled, more spoiled, they were the most unhappy kids. And this continued to when they were boys or girls and when they were like teenagers. And they kept being kids with problems. So we think we're doing the best thing, but we're actually not doing the best thing. Your Phoenix has to learn that he is loved, and also the other boy is loved, and also you can love many people equally, and it doesn't have to be a competition. So the advice I gave you is counterintuitive these days, but in the past all the kids would sleep together and they would kind of feel each other and grow with each other instead of trying to protect them from each other. And having a hard time is your fault. If you accept that you're going to have a hard time, you're going to enjoy your kids less. You're going to be more of a slave to their whims instead of deciding that kids are supposed to be a plus in your life and not accept anything that makes you unhappy. Kids learn, they're like sponges. They understand the rules as long as you're consistent with the rules. They understand the rules and they feel comfortable within the rules. Like with my kids, I found I used to take them camping, like free camping on a beach when they were really, really young toddlers, like 1 and 3, 2 and 4, this kind of ages, and older, of course. And we're just lying on a beach, and I would check an area because there was driftwood and stuff, so there's nothing sharp or anything there or any danger. I would say, okay, now you can do whatever you like from here until that tree trunk over there. They would play in abandon. They would feel safe. They would play and play and play. If they wandered out of the area, I would shout at them so they come right back. So they would play for hours and then they would come and say, Daddy, we've explored all this area. Can you give us another area? So then I would go and scout another area. I say, okay, now you can go all the way to that rock over there. And then they would be playing very nicely over there. The mistake parents make is they don't want to put rules on their children. And even if they do, they don't observe them. So the kids always feel insecure. A kid feels well if there's limits. They know, if I observe A, B, C, I'm safe. Nobody's going to tell me I'm a bad boy or a bad girl. But if rules are ambiguous, if one time they will paint on the wall and you will say nothing, you'll ignore it because you're busy. And the other time you will do it and you will be very angry at them, they have no sure footing of knowing what's okay and what's not. And the point is, even if you raise your children so everything's okay, which some people do, it's called conscious parenting nowadays, or compassionate parenting, where you don't have the right to tell your kids anything they decide by themselves, All they do is neurotic children that never feel safe. And when I was growing up, there was no child that was depressed. And very few people were depressed. There were some. Nowadays, everybody's depressed. You get kids, there's an epidemic of depression in young teenagers and now even in toddlers. What reason does a toddler have to be depressed? They don't pay taxes, don't have to go to work, they're safe. Why would they be depressed? They are depressed because we project this on them. So yes, you should keep your kids in the same room. Yes, they will learn to sleep even if the other one is crying. They will learn to ignore it because everybody gets used to anything. Yes, they will learn that they don't own the room, it's for both of them. And yes, it will bring them closer. And then what's going to happen, they will be able to occupy each other, and you won't have to entertain them all the time like many parents do. And you will be able to entertain them when you feel like it. And then it's going to be genuine. And then they're going to feel it. Another thing that I had a debate with my ex-wife was when I played with my kids and I played, let's say, Monopoly or something like that, whatever, snakes and ladders, whatever. I would never let them win. I would be super competitive. I would destroy them. My ex-wife would say, you are heartless. You're like destroying your kids and then you're gloating about it. Yeah, that's what I'm doing. Because otherwise, when the moment comes for them to win, they're never going to trust it. But when the time comes for them to win, they're going to be triumphant and they're going to gloat because they've achieved something. They've grown up, they learned the game, and they managed to beat me. And eventually, both my kids managed to beat me practically at everything. First with video games, because their reflexes are much better. Initially, I would slaughter them, and then, it came to a point where it wasn't even a contest. And then in many other things. And they felt that indeed they're winning. It's not like other parents that have always let them win. So when they truly win, it makes no difference. So if you're having a hard time with your kids, it's your fault. Because you should be having a good time with your kids, and you should let them cry sometimes if they're well fed and clean and all of that, and they have no need, and all they need is neediness for attention, then you should let them cry a little bit and let them, find out that they cannot command the world. Because when children learn that they are commanding the world in their home, then they go to kindergarten, and of course there's 20 kids there, and they cannot command the world. They gotta sleep when they're told, and they gotta eat when they're told, and they gotta do whatever when they're told, and they're devastated because their whole reality is destroyed. So yes, you gotta be a little heartless to your kids and a little heartful to you guys. Because if you're not happy, you're showing them the model, the ideal of a stressed parent that's constantly trying to please them. And then that's what they're going to do in their lives. They're going to be miserable to serve their kids, and then their kids will know that they're miserable because kids always know everything. They're very intuitive. So you think you're doing something good by over taking care of your kids, but you're actually not.
This reminds me, Mikis, of a quote from Jordan Peterson, and he talks about how you should never let your kids make you resent them. And it's just like this. It's just like
Absolutely.
But the adult is in control with choice, as you're saying, of how to set the structure for them, the boundaries, the clarity, all of that. And it's funny to me where, as you said, we'll have peers, friends of ours that have kids, and for them, it's much more this, this mindset of, just the kid is like that. Our dog is like that. And to me, it's very clear, but they have this disconnect between how their choices as the adult impacts how their kid will respond.
I
Very
remember a
fun.
story. I'm going to tell you a story for when my kids were very young. So as I told you, we're associated, and you're going to do that as well. When your kids are 2, 3, 4, you're going to gravitate to people that have kids of a similar age, so then they can play and you can do something else.
Yeah.
So I used to have like this terrace, this roof. That was like a roof terrace. It had barbecue there and the wood oven and plants and stuff like that and pergolas. And on the Sundays we would invite people with kids, and we would spend the Sunday there. And I remember when I was a kid, my father figure was my uncle, because my father died when I was about a year and a half old. So my father figure was my uncle, and he loved ice, lots of ice with water in a big pint glass. My mom always had this pint glass for him. And when he came into the house, the best thing for me was to run as a little kid and be the one to get him his ice water. I really love that. So there we are on this like roof terrace, roof garden, and I tell my kids, "Hey Alex, bring me an ashtray, and oh Spiro, yeah, get me some water." And my kids would run to get me this. And then this woman, a mother of kids, she comes to me and says, "It is reprehensible that you're using your kids as slave labor. My father used to ask things from me, and I remember I hated him for it." And I was shocked. Your dad, who's supposed to be like your God, as your mother, as your goddess, the one who takes care of you, the one who feeds you, you resent bringing him a fucking glass of water? What the hell is that? And then their kids, they had 2 boys. We brought some ice cream up, and you had to go up through a twisted staircase. So it was not very easy from downstairs. I lived in Greece, so it's very hot in the summer. So we bring the ice cream up, and there's 3 flavors, let's say vanilla, chocolate, and strawberry. And we serve everybody with ice cream. And these 2 kids don't want any ice cream. So we say, okay, last call. Anybody wants ice cream because it's melting, it's got to go down the fridge. So they say no. The ice cream goes down. 3 minutes later, they say, Dad, I want ice cream. But the ice cream has gone down, so the dad goes down, brings the ice cream up, says, what ice cream do you want? One says, I want vanilla. The other one says, I want strawberry. You don't want anything more? No, 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 no. He gives them vanilla, he gives them strawberry, takes the ice cream down because, as I say, it's melting because it's hot. He gets back up. By the time he's up, they say, I changed my mind. I don't want vanilla, now I want chocolate. I don't like the vanilla. So he goes right down to bring them the chocolate. Now, I would have told my kids, you didn't take ice cream when we told you? Tough luck, man, no ice cream this week. Yeah? But he went down 2 or 3 times to please them. These boys were depressed and unsatisfied all their lives. He was a stay-at-home dad, and the wife was making a lot of money, so he decided to stop his job and be a stay-at-home dad. And he was always asthmatic. We were friends, so we would see him and the kids a lot. Always like running. Did I forget anything to bring or something like that? And they always wanted special food, and they always wanted everything. And these kids were given everything, whatever they wanted since they were young. They were always miserable, Greg.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I think, you know, for me, I think what's interesting now being a dad and a parent is, and in the workshops, you teach us about the masculine and feminine energies just for a romantic relationship between partners. And then I think about those energies as parents and the benefits that the children get from each of those energies and those dynamics. And with your story, it's like it sounds like the polarity is off, and but that that guy who's the father, he's just at the whim of everything the kid wants. And it's interesting navigating it now with my wife Julia, where I feel like she knows so much about being a mom. She's done so much homework. She knows all these great things about food and all that stuff and how to prepare things. And I find for me as the dad, and maybe this is the masculine, but I'm much more laid back. I'm much more relaxed. And I find that's how we balance each other as parents. I feel like the feminine is, as you know, flowy and can be the storm and all of that. And so I find it's interesting. We, our beliefs on, will our son be okay if he doesn't have this thing, or if it's not done just this right way? It's like he'll be fine, he'll survive if he doesn't get that ice cream or whatever, right? It's and in fact, it'll be good for him, to your point, that he doesn't get the ice cream if he said earlier he didn't want it, right? He learns the importance of his words.
He learns, first of all, one of the most important things in life, which is the principle of opportunity cost. The whole of life is about opportunity cost. If you see the girl of your life and you're too scared to approach her, you may never see her again. Or the next time you see her, she may have a boyfriend and you've lost your opportunity. The same thing applies to everything. Somebody invites you to, I don't know, a holiday in the Caribbean, and you're too busy, and you say, no, I got to do this and that, and so on and so forth. Yeah. Maybe nobody again ever will invite you to a holiday in the Caribbean, and you've lost this opportunity for something that is every day. There's an old joke about this Greek immigrant after the Second World War. So he was hearing that in the United States, money grows on trees. Anybody who goes there, whether they wash dishes or do whatever, they make shitloads of money, and that's the place that he wanted to go. So he saved and worked very hard, 3 jobs, to save enough money for his passage. Back then it took like more than a month, like a month and a half, 2 months to get over with the boat. So it takes him like a year and a half to gather the money, and then it takes him months to get there. Then he's taken to Ellis Island. They would take people there to investigate them before they gave them permission to be United States citizens. So he stays there a few months, and eventually they put him on the pier of New York, like now free to start his new life. So he takes 2 steps and he stumbles on something. He looks down. There's a big fat wallet the size of this, and he opens it, and it's full of money in it. It's like packed with money. He opens it up and he's astounded. He says, all the stories were true. Here in the US, money grows on trees. And amazing. I mean, I did the right thing. I struggled to get to the right place. This is it. This is where I'll start my life. And he looks at the wallet and says, you know what? It's my first day. Fuck this. I'm going to start collecting money tomorrow. He throws the wallet in the water. And then he spends another 30 years, never finds another one. So that applies to every moment in life. If you think that, you know what, I'm going to suffer when my kids are young so that I have a good time afterwards, you never know if this will happen. You never know. Yes, my dad died when I was a year and a half. My brother was 3 years old. Yeah. And Well, knock on wood, none of us is going to die. You're not going to die, but you don't know what happens. It's not only dying, it's many things that stop you. So you got to enjoy your life, and you got to enjoy your relationship throughout, from day one. And the way to do this is to understand that back in the day, thousands of years of human evolution, parents would have 7, 8, 9 kids because there was no contraception, maybe 10, 11, 12. Many of them would die because, life expectancy for kids was very low. And then they would make more. And then the dad had to work on the farm or wherever he was working. And the mom would also have to do all these jobs. She didn't have time for all these kids. They grew up alone. The older took care of the younger, or they may do. And that's how humanity flourished. But now we're not flourishing. We're having depressed kids, we're having weak kids. More and more kids don't work. They can't work because they're too traumatized to be told what to do. Their parents have always told them you can do whatever you like. So they go get their first job. And their boss tells them, oh, you didn't do this right, do it again. They get offended. And then they're miserable all their lives because we're going against nature. Yes, parents in nature, they take good care of their children, but only to the degree that they can and they can afford, and only to the degree that does not destroy their own lives, and only until the time where the kid is not ready to do whatever themselves. So when your kids are capable in 2 or 3 years to pick up their own toys and put them in a box, you should oblige them to put them in the box, or they lose the toy. Is this cruel? Yes. Is life cruel? Yes. So we lived on the 5th floor. As I told you, we were high up, like on the top. And my kids sometimes would throw toys over the balcony. Although it was very high, with an extra safety barrier, but they would throw them up and they say, okay, mommy, bring me my toy, it fell down. As the masculine, I had to do my job, which means set limits and say, it's over the railing, it's gone. So I would gather all these toys and donate them to, I don't know, the cancer kids or the orphan kids, whatever. There's many organizations you can take stuff like that, like their old clothes and stuff. And they would never see them again. They learned to respect their toys. If they didn't want to lose it, they wouldn't throw it over the railing. Very easy. They understood the rules. It wasn't the problem. I don't believe they were traumatized for life because they lost a couple of toys. The same thing would happen if they would beat each other for a toy. Yeah? You hit each other over it, you lose it. No, but it's his fault. No, it's his fault. No, it takes 2 to tango. Yeah? So yes, should you be cruel sometimes to your child? Cruel, nothing really bad's happening to them. Yes, because nature is cruel.
Well, and if anything, I know your point you're making, but it doesn't even seem cruel to me. It seems benevolent because you're teaching them the gift of taking responsibility, right?
I'm joking, of course. It's not
Of course.
cruel.
Yeah.
Because the role of the masculine, your role, is to prepare your children for the outside world. So if you're not there, they can survive and flourish. And the role of Julia is to kind of pamper them and take care of them and give them this love of the nest. If you both do the same, you deprive your children of 50% of the energies and the gifts they should be getting from parents. So, no, it's not cruel. I'm just being sarcastic, let's call it.
Yeah.
Because they consider it cruel. They consider it cruel. I was watching yesterday, the day before yesterday, a video about the New York tube, the subway.
Mm.
And the New York subway is a mess. People are afraid to go there because in the past they used to have turnstiles that are from top to bottom. So you couldn't get in if you didn't pay a ticket. And now, in order to help the weak, they've taken many years, they've taken those out. So they have one of those little ones that you can jump over or go under, the turnstiles. So most of the people don't pay for it, the majority. That means it's full of criminals because they don't have to pay to be in there. But most importantly, it houses something like over 4,000 homeless people who actually sleep on the subways, and probably an equal number that actually sleep on the cars, inside the subway cars. And they're all kind of like addicts, alcoholics, weird people, mentally ill. They just sleep on the floor in the cold and things like that. So the mayor, who was part of the responsibility of this, because now the New York subway is like one of the worst places in the world. People are afraid to go in there. It's full of crime. It's dirty. It's stinky. It's full of diseases. So he said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to do a task force, and they're going to be accompanied by social workers to check it out. And they went into a station that was just a few days ago. They went to a station, one station only, one station. Not even a car, yes? Not even a wagon. One station, and they found there 96 homeless people sleeping. These homeless people were approached by this team of like sociologists and social care people and so on and so forth. And they were asked if they would like to be taken to a hotel or a nicer place to sleep. Out of them, only 16 accepted. It was not obligatory. Only 16 accepted. So they took these people to a hotel, yes? Most New Yorkers, they cannot afford rent. So they're leaving the city. But they pay to illegal migrants, like 150,000 of them, they pay free hotels. But anyway, the other 80 just remain there. So one view is that these people are not capable to make their own decisions, and you should like take care of them, put them somewhere where it's sanitary, they actually have a toilet, and they don't have like to shit on the floors and things like that. But there was a big uproar and demonstrations that even talking to them and suggesting to them that they shouldn't be sleeping in the subway is an inhumane act. Can you believe this? Talking to them.
It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And I just think, you know, this whole I mean, there could be an entire episode devoted to this topic, but just of, you know, this woke thing, politically correct thing, all of this. And now it's like we tiptoe, we can't, you know, have basic law and order, basic, you know, going back to what we talked at the very beginning, like giving a child a good sense of what's right and wrong and what's acceptable. And now the lines have been so blurred by this, and it's crazy. And you think about, okay, so now I'm raising these two little boys in this world, and when these questions come up, as they will when they get older, and it'll be interesting, you know, how the world evolves and how to teach them about what's right and wrong.
Look, there's already starting to be a reverse action, like a backlash
Yeah.
about it because the results are so obvious. Criminality in places like New York or San Francisco is through the roof. The homeless are multiplying. So the homeless is not a problem that's there per se. It is there to a degree, but we're multiplying it, we're fostering it, we're creating it. Criminality now, they've made it in those cities where under $900 or $1,000, it's it's not it's not even an offense. It's less than a misdemeanor. So people just go into the supermarket, they steal in front of the cameras and everybody, the security guards, 900 worth of goods. They take them to their car or somewhere. Then they come back, they steal another 900. Nobody can do anything about it. What is the result? Walgreens and all these kind of chain stores, they're closing down. Most of them are closing down already. So poor people, they have nowhere to shop in their neighborhood. Big stores are also closing down and getting away from these cities. And that's all in the name of goodness, where we're destroying everybody's life. In Europe, for example, the whole of Europe, it is full of Syrian and Afghani refugees. They don't speak the language. Most of them don't even work and they live on social security. Whole towns are eroded and crime is ballooning. Sweden used to be the model of liberal and progressiveness in the world, basically. They were the ones that first did humane jails that looked, prisons that looked like hotels where they had ping pong and pool tables and gardens and things like that, and they had conjugal visits so they could get laid while they're in prison and things like that, and so on and so forth. They were one of the first to do full equality of sexes and anything you can imagine, and anti-racism and anti-everything. So they invited in the immigrants in their hundreds of thousands. Now they're reversing everything. Because Sweden, which was the most safe country together with Switzerland in Europe, became the most dangerous country. Explosions in the streets, gun violence, gangs. Denmark, which has a big bridge united with Sweden, although they're both Schengen and they have free borders, they closed the border because they were fed up of, I don't know, Venezuelan or Afghani or Moroccan gangs coming into the country and committing crimes. So now suddenly both Denmark and Sweden are chucking everybody out. Because in the past, we used to welcome migrants as long as they were the right migrants with no criminal records. There were people that had a useful profession for our society. They were willing to learn the language and take exams and, do all these kind of things. And then we would welcome them, and then we would have integration of these people that would become part of this country. But in the last 10 years or 15 years, we've just decided to be the philanthropists of the world. And we're causing such enormous harm. I will tell you something that's very controversial right now. The greatest crime on earth is charity. Instead of charity, there should be a deal. I'll help you and then you'll do that. Charity is the greatest crime. It keeps people down. It makes the people who do the charity feel superior. It makes the people who receive the charity feel dependent, vulnerable, and inferior. And charity is the greatest crime that anybody can commit. Instead of giving people charity, make a deal. Give them a job. Making a deal. You do this and this and this, and I will help you. And then you repay me by doing this and this and this and this. And then these people that receive the help, they become useful members of society. I'll tell you another story because a story like an image is like 1,000 words because it gives like the point. In my country, there's lots of like Roma, gypsy kids everywhere. They clean windows of cars, windscreens. They sell tissues. They they pester everybody in the street because basically charity. Yes, they give you a bunch of tissues that you can get at any supermarket at like triple the price. But so one time we were many years ago. We were in a taverna by the sea, and there were about, I don't know, many of us, like 16, 18 people on a big table, eating really cool shit, calamari, fish, octopus, French fries, Greek salads, cool, nice stuff, shrimp. And these kids were coming, and they were pestering us for money all the time. 1, 2, 3, they never stop. And there was one kid that was very insistent, and I basically told him, was a little kid, yeah, hi. I told him, like, you're being very impolite, just get the fuck out of here. So a girl that was in our group, she turned to me, and she was like very judgmental about me, said, you're very cruel, you're privileged, and you're like sending this poor kid away, and so on and so forth. And I said, you're very good giving them €1, half a euro, 50 cents or something like that to alleviate your conscience and to feel good about yourself. Do you know what this kid needs? He needs a square meal. And he needs for one time to be taken. Can you take this dirty kid to your home, give him a bath, and give him some soup, and keep him for a couple of days and then set him loose? Are you willing to do that? So the next kid that came, another kid came, yes. I said, okay, come here. And I put him to sit between this girl, there was a gap, and another one. I said, take a seat there and eat. So this kid started eating, the food on the table like that. I swear to you, within 2 minutes, a grown-up came, took him by the ear and took him away. Because this money that these kids take, it's a racket. They give it to somebody else. Yeah. But the question remained, are you willing to take this kid one day in your house? Yeah. And clean him up, clean her up. Yeah. And give her like something to strive for in the future, to not accept this kind of life. But most people are not. They want to do the virtue signaling, give them a buck, say, I've done my good deed for the day. And where does it lead them? It leads to institutionalizing people using charity as a money-making device. I also had one time when I was working, I'm not going to tell you too many stories, but I think it's interesting. We were in a fair, like a business fair, and it was the end of the fair, and all of us were having dinner, and the next day we had to pack up everything for the exhibition and send it on trucks back to the warehouses. It was a machinery exhibition, doesn't matter. It was a lot of work. And some guy came back and was selling tissues, and he had like this kid with him. And he was saying, please, for my kid, buy my tissues. So I said, no, I'm not gonna buy your tissues. But I'll tell you what, if you come to the exhibition hall 9 at like 7 o'clock in the morning tomorrow morning, I'm going to give you a job. And I'm going to give you, I don't know, 20 euro, 30 euro. Not 50 cents that you're asking. And he said, how many hours is that? I said, I don't know, as long as it takes to pick it up. 5, 6, 7 hours. He said, what will I be doing? Well, you'll be packaging and carrying stuff like the rest of us. He says, are you crazy? I make 60 euro a day going around and asking for money. And you're telling me to come to work all these hours for 30. So yeah, don't give charity, Gregory. Make a deal. And the one who takes the deal deserves the help. And the one who doesn't take the deal does not deserve the help. You're perpetuating misery and victimhood.
Well, it's then there's buy-in and commitment from the person rather than just this blind charity. Like I remember when I was in the Choice OS workshop with you back in 2018, and I remember you clearly saying that it's important for people taking the workshop that they're not taking it as a gift, right? That they are themselves paying for it themselves, or maybe they do some type of deal, like a loan, like to your point. But they need to be committed in the investment and, be fully on board with it. It's not just this gift.
If you're going to take advantage of something, you need to value it and you need to work for it. Yeah. It's the same thing that kids that struggle to study and go to university and they have to work to go to university like I did. I had to work throughout. I didn't have money. And there's other kids that have rich parents that pay for everything. And the kids that have actually struggled to get there, they generally do much better. And they generally take much more advantage of their time in university and all of that. Whereas the kids that go there and then they change their mind and then they study something else and then they change their mind and they take a 1-year sabbatical and then there's the money again, or like in Canada, they can get student loans or free education, especially if you're First Nation or something, or, a single mother or whatever victimhood club there is. And then they basically do nothing with it. I know people that have studied 4 different subjects and they practice nothing. And you say, okay, that next one is going to be the good one. Because it's too easy. How easy should it be? I approached this in the last podcast.
Yeah.
There are some things that are supposed to be a little harder. If you want a brain surgeon to operate on your brain, you do not want his diploma to have been easy. You want it to have been difficult.
Well, this reminds me of, I totally agree. And it reminds me of the pillar of intention. And, it's almost as we've progressed as a species and humanity, we almost have this abundance of choice of things that we could do to spend our time on. There's so much choice. There's so much option. And, with the intention pillar, you talk about the freedom to, have only one choice and then to really focus on that choice and give you everything you have, right? To then really see if that's
the intention pillar, just to explain before you continue to people that may not know what it is. Pillars mean pillar beliefs. Beliefs designed to make you happy and successful. Because according to my work, the work of Choice OS, beliefs are our software. They determine what we think, what we feel, and how we act and react. It's all about beliefs. So if you believe that this is a dangerous world, you will be constantly afraid of things, Like if you believe that you're going to get contaminated by germs, then like Michael Jackson, you sleep in a hyperbaric chamber and you go around with masks. Like even now, years after COVID and years after it's been proven that COVID is like a flu and that the inefficiency of masks, I see people everywhere wearing masks because they're afraid, because of their beliefs, where everybody else is no longer wearing masks and they're fine. Now, today you may hear me cough or sniffle because I have a virus. Here at Terra Mythica, we're in the jungle. And by the way, this dungeon is our game room. We created it and we sculpted and made all of it. And this is where we play role-playing games like Dungeon and Dragon every Saturday. It's kind of like a bonding exercise. And well, that sculpture back there is the Duke, who is a sorcerer, and that's me, my character in the game. But anyway, I digress. What was I saying?
Well, I think you were talking
Intention.
about the pillars and the belief systems and
Intention, okay. So the pillars are beliefs that are designed to help you. So we say that intention is what it's my intention to lose weight, it's my intention to learn Spanish, it's my intention, to don't like stick my finger and take boogers out of my nose, whatever. But if this intention is easily broken, it's not an intention, it's a declaration of the moment. Yeah? If you say, I'm not going to be angry with my wife, but I will find a way to communicate with her. And then the next time there's a fight, you're angry again. That's not intention. Intention is very simply what will happen no matter fucking what. No matter what. That's what intention is. It's a firm commitment to yourself. And again, if your intention is you want to be a doctor, and then you do your first year and you do okay, and your second year you go into difficulties, and then you give up and you don't go anymore, and that's gone. And then your intention is to learn to be a chef and you quit on that as well. That's not intention. You're betraying your choices. You're betraying your own choices. And your choice is your soul, man. That's what makes you who you are. Your choices. You are who you are. You have the appearance that you do the job that you do, you live the way that you want because of myriad of choices that you've been making throughout your life. And this is your soul, this is your essence. This is what will be left after you're gone. The impact you've left in the world, in your children, in your friends, through your soul. So you're betraying your very soul by betraying your intention. So intention is not just any other choice. It's what will happen no matter what, because you've decided that it's so, and because you give value to your choice. So for example, if your intention is to make it work with Julia, for example, and have a family, there will be times where there will be trouble because people, they grow apart, shit happens and things like that. If your intention is not strong, you will give up. You will give up. And then your intention means nothing. Only when you've done your very best, only when you've exhausted everything, you should call it quits on any subject, and not a second before. And if you fall, let's say I say I'm going to have a diet, and then I eat like a donut. All I have to do is renew my intention. I say, okay, I did that. Good. I'm forgiving myself. Now I renew my intention for tomorrow. You keep doing that for as long as it takes. Yeah. You can't lose any game unless you declare it's the end of the game. As long as the game is current, as long as you control the game and you control, you're the game maker, and you control the duration, even if you're losing 10-0, if the duration is infinite until you win, you will win. You gotta be the game, you gotta be the game maker and the game controller of your life. And be proactive in solving issues, not just accept them. If you're not enjoying time with Julia, you gotta make that clear. Julia, right now, you're making me feel that I would be better if you weren't here. Is that what you want? And vice versa, of course. Is that what you want right now? But we allow ourselves to be hurt sometimes because we don't want to hurt the other. And then we build up like a pressure cooker, and then we do our worst.
Yeah.
Because we're reluctant to stop something right there.
Yeah.
My relationship with my wife is better every year. And I can't imagine a more loving husband. A guy that tells her how he loves her and gives her compliments all day from the moment we wake up and everything, and I'm very tender. But if she gives me this tiny bit of bad energy, I will cut her off immediately. I'm not liking that. What the fuck is that? Stop that. If you got a problem with me, just tell me. No sarcasm, no like undercurrent meanings, no. This is not happening with me. End of story, immediately. Any complaints are not acceptable. You have a complaint, you tell me about it. If I think I should be doing what you want, I will tell you, okay, I will do what I want, and then I will keep my intention. And if I don't think I should be doing that, I will say, no, this is never going to happen. End of story. Do not ever complain to me about this because I don't believe I should be doing it. It's like an example I had with an Argonaut, actually, from Canada, very recently. So she's got this boyfriend. He's really, really an awesome guy, really, really nice. So he was telling me, they were here visiting in Terra Medica, and he was telling me, like, how they're having, like, lots of friction and things like that. I said, okay, give me an example. So he said, well, there's like, she's put like a mat outside the shower. And when I get out of the shower, I'm supposed to stay there until I don't drip anymore. And then I'm supposed to take the mat and hang it to dry. So he says, like, I remember I manage 50% of the time. But sometimes I'm tired and I just go like to the room, with my towel, and I don't put the fucking mat to dry. But sincerely, he told her, they were in front of me both, I really, really try, but I don't do it every time. I said, this is your mistake. You should never do it even once. If she wants a fucking mat there and she wants it dry, she should be drying it. Because if she's not there, you don't mind. It's not a big problem for you. Yeah? So her being there in your home makes it a negative on these occasions. We should always be a positive. You should never have done it even once. You should have laughed and said, no fucking way. I'm going to come out of my shower and I'm going to go and hang the fucking thing there to dry so that it's dry the next time. What the fuck is this? I would never do it. He was shocked because he did not believe that he actually had this option. He could not comprehend that this was an option for him. But it's very simply, if your partner is telling you to do something that displeases you, Never do it. But if they tell you something that is not a big deal, yeah, then do it, but do it every time. If you accept to do it consistently. And if you don't accept to do it, never do it. Again, be consistent. And declare that you never do it. Don't promise and then let them down. That's the problem. You promise and you let them down. Then they're unhappy. If you say, no, this is never going to happen, there's no promise to let down. Promise I'm never, ever going to do that.
I love the clarity of it all. And it's funny because, it's from the outside looking in, someone might think, oh, well, that's just such a small thing, but it all builds up, right? Energetically, the symbolism, and then it becomes a source of conflict and it compounds. So I love this idea of just all of these different things that we can do to just ensure that we're creating a harmonious life with our partner in our home.
Yeah, but there's like a further step to this. I have a friend in Greece, and he had this girlfriend. They lived together for more than 10 years. And for 10 years, every time I saw him, he complained about her. He said that she is like frigid in bed. He said that, she didn't put the lid back on the toothpaste. So with the heat, the sun, the toothpaste flowed out into the counter of the bathroom, and it would be very difficult to scrape off. He said they had like this milk frother for the cappuccino machine, and she wouldn't clean it up, and then he would go to do a cappuccino, and he'd find there like everything green and disgusting because it was there like for 2 days. So he had like a list of grievances, like, I don't know, 3 pages long. Always complain about her, year after year, year after year. Then one day she leaves him. She gets the fuck up. She's fed up of him complaining. Because, I'm sure she was doing these things. But he also had things like he had dogs that were very smelly and they were all over the furniture and everything was always destroyed. I mean, people have shit, right? So he's depressed. He's unshaven. His eyes are dark. What's happening, man? Well, she left me. I can't live without her, but aren't you happy? No, he says, I'm miserable. He says, but she was horrible. She was bad in bed and frigid. No, only sometimes, and most times she was fine, okay. And what about the fucking toothpaste? Well, yes, it's not a problem because I found this toothpaste that stands up and has like a button that you press so it closes automatically. So I bought one of those, so it's not a problem. Or what about the milk frother? Well, if she comes back, I'm going to buy another milk frother, so she has hers, so I don't care. They're only like 40 euros, so I'm going to buy another one, and she's going to have hers, and then if it's smelly, it's okay, and blah, 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 blah. And I said, man, why didn't you do these things all these years? Why do you do this? It's like the same with the Canadian. Why don't you buy like one of these mats that doesn't need drying or something? Like, relax, chill.
Mm.
Why don't you have 2 mats? And then you can take the wet one out and put the dry one there so it's always dry and you can do your shit. Why does he have to do it? Before you went there, he never had a mat there. He didn't care. He would drink all the way to the bedroom and he would be fine by it because in 10 minutes it would be dry. What the fuck? So there's all these little things that add up that sour a relationship. Because we try to please the other person, but then we don't please ourselves and we build up resentment. Because the bath mat is one thing, and the toothpaste is another thing, and something else is another thing, something else is another thing. So, yeah, If you can solve it, don't try to solve it after you lose it. Try to solve it before you lose it and you regret it.
I wanted to ask you, Mikis, having done two workshops, a Choice OS and an advanced workshop now, for people who have never done one of these workshops before, you talked earlier in our conversation about like depression and how like so many kids are depressed these days. And, I had told you at the very beginning here, I was depressed before I took your workshops. And I'll just say one quick thing, which is, what I learned through them was that, it's all comes down to choice, my choice. I can essentially rewrite my code through my belief systems and what I believe. And so my question to you is, why do you feel that the workshops and how you conduct them, the methods, why are they so much more effective than, say, a traditional therapist where you go see them one-on-one for like an hour a week, and it just seems like it perpetuates. Like for me, it felt like the workshop was this crazy time warp, and it felt like, it was probably 12, 13 days, the first one, and it felt like 20 years of therapy condensed into those 12 days for me. But I mean, you've been doing these for however many years and have done so many of them. So I just wanted to ask you, like, what do you think it is?
Well, to start with, depression and associated mental syndromes and illnesses are this year, according to the World Health Organization, overcoming heart disease is the number one killer, the number one cost to society, the number one destruction of health and welfare, and the number one destroyer of happiness, and so on and so forth. People are afraid of cancer, but depression, they call it the silent epidemic, and it's galloping. The World Health Organization has declared this an emergency since the first conference on the subject in 2003. And there are many of them, 2006, 2009, many of them. And they put trillions of resources on it. The pharmaceutical industry, let me tell you, there is more turnover in kind of mind medicine, like depression medication and things like that, than all the other illnesses put together. Xanax, Valium, and many others are household names, where any other kind of medication, only the people like that are concerned know it. The industry of psychotherapy, like in Buenos Aires, there are more psychotherapists per 100,000 population than anywhere in the world, so it's not restricted to very rich places. Everybody goes to a shrink at some point and they pay however much a session for a couple of sessions, 2-3 sessions a week, like for years and years and years and years. There is the self-help industry has ballooned, the alternative therapists. Yeah, alternative, all kinds of like wellness holidays and workshops and things like that. They're all over the place. Everybody does them. It's the fastest growing industry. Why is it getting worse? And the answer is very simple. Because every kind of therapy, whether conventional, let's say, or alternative, focuses on one thing: trauma. They try to discover trauma, alleviate trauma, comfort trauma, resolve trauma, whatever. It's all about trauma. And not only are they failing miserably, according to their own numbers, but they're themselves perpetuating the problem and making it worse. Because it's not about the trauma. It's about our conflicting beliefs inside. It's about the paradox. For example, when you're guilty and a victim at the same time, So let's say you have a problem with a friend and you're very angry at them and you say, oh, they're assholes, they're this and this and this and that. If that was your only belief, then you would say, okay, fuck them, I don't need them anymore. But if you suffer from the break in the relationship, that means that not only are you a victim of whatever they did, but you also feel guilty. Maybe you didn't do your best, maybe you fucked up as well, and so on and so forth. This applies to so many cases. Yeah. When a couple splits up, well, they go to their friends and say he was a pig, and the other one goes to their friends and says she was a bitch, and so on, so on. And you see them after a while, they go back together, or they're both depressed. Why are you depressed? She was a bitch and he was a pig. Good riddance. Find somebody else. But it's because they feel both guilty and victim at the same time. And the last example I'm going to give you is children who have been abused by parents or brothers or members of the family. They have a very hard time recovering from this and having a proper relationship in their life because they're in internal contradiction and paradox. Because if you walk in the park and somebody attacks you and rapes you, you're clearly a victim. So, okay, you don't really get traumatized. You kind of like a little bit, but you recover and you're fine. But for these cases of like family, domestic kind of like sexual abuse, there is the victim and the guilty at the same time. So maybe I was a bad girl or a bad boy and deserved it. Maybe I was competing with my mom. Maybe I actually liked it and wanted it. Maybe. So they're fluctuating between being a victim and the guilty party. Again, the example of the woman that's raped in the park. I bet you, and there's a lot of evidence about that if everybody was telling her, don't work through that park at night, and she said 20 times, I don't care, I'm safe, I have no problem, nothing happens in the park, despite what everybody tells her, if she is raped in the park, it's much harder for her to recover than the one that had not been told that the park is dangerous. Because together with her victimhood is her guilt. So we don't accept trauma or victimhood. We look into people's beliefs and we find all their contradictions, their internal conflicts, their paradoxes. In psychiatry, psychology is called cognitive dissonance. And it's basically the phenomenon where it was like proposed by Dr. Leon Festinger in the early 1960s. And he was like a social psychiatrist. And he proposed, and everybody accepts it. You learn when you go to university for any social psychiatry or psychology. If you Google it, there'll come millions of hits. And it basically says that when a human being is confronted, actually every living being, but if a human being is confronted with two or more contradictory and mutually exclusive beliefs at the same time, or two or more contradictory realities, or two or more contradictory actions, and so on and so forth, they experience acute distress. And they try to alleviate that because it's unbearable. Yes, it's like the story of the fox and the sour grapes that has become an expression. A fox is one of Aesop's tales in ancient Greek. The fox goes in the forest, she sees some amazing succulent grapes on the tree. She says, okay, I'm gonna eat those grapes. So she tries to get those grapes and they're too high, and she jumps, she tries to climb, like for 2 hours she's struggling to get the grapes, and she gets disappointed, gives up on the grapes, and as she goes away, she says, I didn't want them anyway, they were sour anyway. We do this all the time. We're fired from a job and say, oh, it wasn't good anyway. Yes? We split up with our girlfriend and say, oh, she was a bitch anyway. sour grapes, because we need to stop our paradox, our internal conflict. So, for example, if you've told everybody that you're going to diet, I'm going to diet so I can put my like pink bikini in the summer and feel good, then I find myself eating a donut, then there's many ways of alleviating that. I can say, oh, you know what? Denial is the first one. This is not actually a fat, this is actually a diet donut, because instead of having the custard cream and the chocolate covering, I took it without the chocolate covering, so actually it's a low-fat donut. Another way to do it is to add the cognition, to say, okay, I'm going to eat salad for the rest of the week, or I'm going to go 3 more times to the gym, so then it's okay, so then again I can get out of the distress. Another way is to change an action. You just throw, it doesn't matter if you're eating most of it, throw the rest in the garbage, say no. From now on, I renew my intention and I'm gone. Another one, which is my favorite, I will say, oh, you know what? This is a long-term thing, so I need to be letting off steam once in a while. It's my favorite excuse for stuff like that. So there's many ways to solve that, but it happens automatically in us. The paradox is that we are taught that we should be above our animal nature. We should be angels. We should, if we have 2 cloaks, we should give 1. But if you don't want to do that, because you have a brown cloak and you have a blue cloak, so if you give 1 cloak, you only have a brown cloak that's not going to go with your clothes. Or I have a light cloak for more summery and a heavy cloak. So doing what Jesus proposed is kind of preposterous because you don't want to do that. Yes. Now, if you have 100 cloaks, you might want to give 1 or 2 ones you don't wear anymore. But pretending that you actually are supposed to care more for another person than yourself, that you're supposed to be selfish, which nobody is, and to pretend that brings people into a great paradox. Yeah. So that's one of many paradoxes of our society. We needed to go into the paradox in order to function as a society, to act as if we're selfless in order to create groups, because there's power in numbers. But like any atavistic characteristic, like the wisdom teeth or the coccyx that is no longer, the appendix that is no longer of use, the appendix used to be a second stomach that would like digest leaves like cows. When it's no longer needed, it festers and it can kill us. Our paradox, our propensity to go against our nature, to not recognize that we have sexuality, to pretend that we don't, to not recognize our own darkness, which is part of our being, to not recognize that we are selfish, because every animal is selfish. It's supposed to be. Its primary responsibility is to itself. They're killing us, like the appendicitis, like the wisdom teeth. So basically what we do in the workshop, we confront the beliefs head on. We don't care what people believe. We just care that they can clearly see it and choose one, not 2 or 3 that alternate according to the environment they are or the situation they're in. And as this process goes on and people are deconstructed, they have an opportunity to actually choose who they want to be, become their own programmers, and choose who they want to be. So we're very effective because we approach everything head on. If you are in psychotherapist kind of couch, they will gingerly try to discover memories and contradictions slowly, and like very gingerly until you feel very safe, and then they can actually approach it and so on. We bang them out. We bang them out and approach everything because everything is connected, it's like parts of the chain. So it's extremely effective. effective. It's not like these facial creams that they sell for women. Well, so you put this facial cream, Helena Rubinstein, Givenchy, whatever, Lancome, put it on for like 30 years, and in 30 years, you're not going to have wrinkles. And then if after 30 years you do have wrinkles, more than you can imagine, they say, yeah, but did you eat chicken? That's the problem. Did you stay in the sun? Yes, that's the problem. So there's no responsibility. The same thing with psychotherapy. Yes, there's no responsibility. So we do our work in 2 weeks. 2 weeks, you feel everything.
Mm.
After that, of course, you got to apply it in your life. It's not brainwashing, it's the opposite. You got to apply these things if you like how you felt, but you do feel everything. You do see everything. You do have a face-to-face discussion with your subconscious. But anyway, this is not supposed to be an advertisement for my workshop. So let's move on to the next question.
No, I think it's cool to take a step back and think about how it all comes together and works. But I guess, going back to fatherhood, being a father, the masculine energy. I alluded to this a little bit earlier, Mikis, but for all parents or soon to be parents at some point, I find like with our dynamic at home with Julia, it's like, again, as I said before, with looking after Phoenix, our son, and now Keanu, she's become sort of the default expert on a lot of things because she has the time, attention. I focus on my career. I bring home the bacon. I bring home the money to support our lifestyle. And so my question to you is, how do you know when, it's something that like I can decide as the man, as the masculine for our kids and our sons versus what the mother decides, because she just tends to spend so much more time. And I'll just give you a quick example. So sometimes I'll find that, we'll be in the kitchen or something. I'll be spending time with, Phoenix, let's say, and then Julia would come over and say, oh, no, you have to do it like this, or make sure you do that. And to me, these things are, again, minimal. They're not going to cause harm to, Phoenix, whether it's done this way or that way. I'm sure Julia has her good intentions about whatever it is, but how do you approach that generally?
Very easily. The moment she mentions anything, you give her the child. Okay, take him. I'm out. I'm going to read my paper. I'm going to watch YouTube. I'm out. And then unless you're doing something really dangerous, she will make sure that she doesn't say anything. Problem solved. Every time she says that, the moment she speaks a word, you say, okay, you take him. But no. I want to show you how you do it. No. I don't want you to show me. I want my time with Phoenix to be my time. Yes? Yeah. If you see me killing him, then intervene. Otherwise, take him. If you can do it better. This will solve your problem in no time.
Mm.
We're creating problems out of nothing. Yeah. If you're clear in what you like and what you don't like, then you will protect what you like. And what you like, it's not be told what to do or to be judged when you're spending time with your kids. So, without any anger, without anything, okay, you take him. No, you keep him. No, I'm done. When you feel I'm doing a good job, then I will spend time with my son. What's she gonna do? She's gonna capitulate. But you gotta be firm. You have to do it every single time. The moment she says anything, off he goes. No anger, no fighting, no complaints. No complaints. I have zero complaint. You can do it better, go ahead. I'm out. No, 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 you're not out. No, I'm out. I said, I'm out, I'm out. And next time you have a comment that is not vital to our kid's survival, then you're going to have to take him as well instantly. So judge things yourself. You're the mother, right? If you judge that whatever I'm doing is not fatally dangerous for our son, then let me be. And if you judge that it is fatally dangerous or like so important, then take him. Do it yourself. Clarity, my friend.
Clarity. Clarity is, there's a pillar about trust is peace, but I find clarity is really peace because it just really helps to keep things simple, right?
But the trust and clarity are connected. Because if you trust in your clarity, you know you're doing the right thing. So that everything is connected. Everything is like pieces of a chain. That's how the pillar beliefs work. One supports the other and reinforces it back and forth in the line. But most importantly, if your choice is to be happy and have a happy life, you should not accept anything that doesn't make you happy. Nothing. And for people to hear that nowadays, it seems horrendous. You're not going to accept anything that makes you happy. What about your partner? Shouldn't she be happy as well? Well, you say, if it's something that I can overcome and learn to do, and it's something small, then I'm going to make her happy because I'm going to make sure I'm happy doing it instead of being unhappy doing it. But if I'm not happy doing it, then fuck no. I'm not going to do it because I'm not serving her. I'm eroding my love to her because I'm building resentment. They say love should be unconditional. This is the biggest bullshit in the world. Love is never unconditional. You love a person because you have a good time with them and you feel good. If you feel like shit, why should you love them? Fuck them. Love is not unconditional. Love always has conditions. Like if your wife is like this Japanese woman that cut off your dick in the night and left you dickless, you're supposed to love her? No. Of course it's conditional. It's some of the bullshit of our culture. Unconditional love. What does that even mean? Unconditional love. Somebody comes and cuts your fingers one by one, or makes you miserable, or gives you a snide remark every 5 minutes. You're supposed to love them no matter what. Fuck them, no. I loved you because I felt good. Now I'm not feeling good. So you shouldn't be taking anything, zero, nothing. But like I showed you, as I say, I always claim that I answer instantly and without hesitation to any question. You gave me a problem, and I gave you instantly an easy answer. It does not cause any fight, doesn't cause anything. And I believe, you are to judge, that it feels right. Does it not?
Yeah.
So give me another and you'll find out how easy everything is. Give me another point of friction between you and Julia of any kind. Things that you don't feel good about.
So, I mean, I'll just give you a specific example. Friday night, we were heading home from picking up Phoenix from daycare in the car. And I guess so. I'd received a phone call or made a phone call from the car. It's hands-free, right? But I had Phoenix in the back and our baby Keanu as well, and Julia. And Julia was like super upset with me. She was like, "How could you do that? Take a phone call while driving the family." And look, I think another piece that I've gotten from your workshops, Mikis, is also accountability, right? For when maybe I do something wrong, I learn, something new, and then I can be right again, right? So
What exactly did you do wrong?
well, that's what I that's what I didn't understand. I didn't think it was unsafe. I thought, well,
How can you understand it? It's ununderstandable. And
mm,
basically, you're bringing home the bacon. So if you take a call, whether it's for business or something else, I mean, you being with your kids in the car and your wife should not be worse than you being alone. You should
yeah,
have all the rights as when you're alone. So basically, it's an enjoyment to have your family in the car rather than an impediment.
yeah,
So you should say, you know what, Julia? I will be always talking on the phone in the car if I need to. And you're welcome to be driving yourself. Do you have two cars?
just the one.
Just the one. She can take a taxi. I'll pay you for a taxi. Or I'll get you a car. Get her a cheap car. Whatever. I'm not willing to drive my fucking car and don't have a right to have a phone call. This is never gonna happen. I'm happy if you and the kids never ride in a car with me, ever. We will be going in different cars and meeting at that destination. Because this freedom I do not wish to lose. Because if I have something important for work, or something important a friend needs me, or something like that, just to please your whims, I will be betraying my purpose. And then, of course, you have no reason to respect me. So, absolutely, for the moment, I will make sure that I have at least one phone call when we're in the car together until you decide that you're happy with it. Otherwise, I will be stopping, I will be calling a taxi, get you guys in the taxi, and let you go home on your own. Because I'm not accepting that the presence of my family, which should always be a blessing to me, associated with a blessing, is eroded. So if I need to make a phone call, I'm not going to call for no reason. I'm not going to call just like, to learn the weather or for a gossip.
Mhm.
But if I want to have a call, then I will have a call. And if you make any faces about it, not even talk to me, you have to go on your own. Very simple. Now, people who watch this may say, oh, what a cruel, chauvinistic, domineering asshole is there. This is not the truth. This is about happiness. If when you have to do it, she's totally discontent, you will be bringing friction into your life again and again. I'm going to give you a quick story. When I was very young, I left away from home at 17 to go study abroad. And when I was 19, I was about already 2 years abroad. My mom didn't know what I was doing. I would call once in a while, but I could do whatever I wanted. There was no problem. She didn't know what time I came back home. So I go home for the summer, for the holidays, and I got a driver's license by now. So I take my mom's car and I go out. So I come back 2 o'clock in the morning. Like in Greece in the summer, it's very normal. It goes dark at 10. People always go out late.
Mm,
Totally normal. You come back 3 or 4. That's the way things were back then.
yeah.
So my mother is in her 90 outside in the garden in the gate and waiting for me anxiously 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. And she like kind of attacks me. What is that? And I've been worried sick and I've been suffering for hours. And I say, Mom, I'm going to ignore you because like all the year you don't know what I'm doing. And now suddenly like you're freaking out because I'm home instead of you enjoying me being home. So I go in and go to bed. The next time I go and she's inside the house, sitting in a chair in the hall, and waiting for me there. She wants to start to talk to me and say, "Good night, Mom," and I go to my bed. She never woke up again. She never worried again. She never had to suffer again. Now you decide, was I cruel? It's up to you. You can decide whatever you want. And
Choice.
somebody can say you're not considerate to your mother and she's worried because now you're driving. Yeah, but I'm driving abroad and she doesn't know what the fuck I'm doing or whether I'm drunk. So it's the same thing
Mm.
with your wife. It's not cruel if, like a man, you take responsibility for not allowing her to be unhappy or unsatisfied about bullshit like this. Does it seem rational to you?
Yeah.
Ask me another. Like you see, it's so easy. I answer instantly.
Hmm.
With a way there is no argument, no tension. Please don't worry about it. I need to make a call, so I'm going to call you a taxi. Or
Yeah.
next week, I'm going to buy you a car for you. It can be a used car, a small car. I'm going to buy you a car. This way, you never have to endure me again, me speaking on the hands free in the car about something that's important, not like whatever. It's not that I'm not paying attention to you and the kids and I'm just like talking to other people for an hour. No. So I have to make a call, I'm making a call.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty clear, pretty simple. You know, I'm sure there's other examples. I mean, I got to say, like, I am really grateful overall. I feel as though, things are going really well. Like we've got certain responsibilities, and Julia's really great at getting up in the night with Keanu. Um, it's funny last night before bed, I think I was looking into Keanu, my baby's boy's son's face, and I was reflecting on how I felt more rested, and so maybe I was appreciating almost looking into his face more than with Phoenix. But obviously, I appreciated him too as a baby. But I made this comment, right? That oh wow, I feel maybe it's because I'm so much more rested, but I just feel like I can really appreciate and be present now looking into Keanu's eyes. And Julia made this comment right back saying, well, speak for yourself, because she's saying, I feel like you're not appreciating that I'm getting up in the night. And it was funny because so we had this little disagreement, right? Because I felt like I was trying to say this nice thing in the moment, and then she made me feel like I don't appreciate her. And maybe I don't know, maybe I haven't shown much appreciation lately for what she's been doing and me having better sleeps at night. And
You should be appreciating zero.
yeah.
It's her job right now. You should be appreciating zero. Does she appreciate you going to work, paying for everything?
Well, I think that's
If
that's something
she's
that I wonder about, right? And you want
if
to
she's
make sure.
super appreciating that, then you can appreciate her role. But what's the point about appreciating the roles that you've decided to have? You should appreciate nothing, and basically, let's be honest here. Yes, babies are super boring. They are super boring. Okay, once in a while they're cute and stuff like that, but basically they're like pillows that scream and shit and barf and droodle. Yeah, so they're
Yeah.
fucking boring. Mothers is different because they have like this body connection, and this miraculous gift that they have to foster life inside them and then like feed it from their breasts and have this connection. So for them, they're less boring. But for us men, we're supposed to pretend that we actually give a fuck. 5 minutes, that's about it of looking into your son's face. And that's like a little bit stretching. It is like 2 minutes, more likely three, realistically. But you should not feel guilty about that because that's your nature. Your role becomes as they grow up. Yes.
Mm.
Like now it's starting with Phoenix when you can communicate more and teach him stuff and so on and so forth. Your role is not to nurture and say gaga boom and like do all this kind of stuff with him. That's not your purpose. You should not feel guilty about it. And it's about appreciating your wife doing her job, the one she chose, then like fuck her, never appreciate her. Appreciate her when she's nice to you and takes care of you and sucks your dick with abandon and cooks you your favorite meals and gives you a foot massage, because then she would appreciate you when you romance her and make nice love to her and take her for nice dinners and give her a vacation. But for doing your jobs, the ones you undertook, if she wanted, she could have pursued a career so she makes the money, you could stay with the kids. She chose this. And then why should be appreciated for doing what she chosen to do? I've chosen to shave every day, brush my teeth, and be hygienic. Should I be appreciated for that? You know what? I really appreciate that you're clean and you don't stink. What the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. I mean, what the fuck does that mean? Even. It's the victimhood. Oh, I'm alone in this and nobody cares and all of that stuff. You're not making her happy by collaborating with her victimhood.
Well, that's
nobody's happy. It's comfortable to be a victim, but nobody's really happy in it.
yeah, and that's exactly it. Like when she made that comment, I immediately was like, hey, that's not cool, right? Like this victimhood of speak for yourself, right? It was this passive aggressive comment and it just didn't sit right with me, right? And
state the obvious. I am speaking for myself. Who else am I speaking for? Obviously, I'm speaking for myself. I said, blah, blah, blah. So who the fuck are you? You want to make your own comment, make your own comment. You're going to make a snide remark about me? Like, shut the fuck up. Because you know what? You're super privileged. In any other era of humanity, just like a few decades ago, you would have to do that and and work and do all kinds of shit. And there were no dishwashers and there were no vacuum cleaners and there were no like things like that. You would have to do everything 10 times as difficult. And you would have to wash the nappies and reuse them instead of having disposable, which I'm paying for. So like, fuck you and your victimhood. Because basically, you're not being nice by collaborating with her, because all you're doing, she's feeling more and more often a victim because she's allowed to. You're not doing your job. Your job is to hold the limits and not allow her to go anywhere else. Like, if you look at the river banks, the ones that are immovable, the ones that set the limits are the masculine of the river. And the water that can flow in there safe and go up and go down and go around this rock and whatever, that's the feminine. And you need both of them. A river without river banks is a swamp, because the water spills out and stays on the ground. It's a swamp and festers. A river without the water is a ditch, just an empty ditch. Both are necessary and none is victim of the other, but each one must do his job. Yeah. So the less you're accepting of this stuff, the more you will not have resentment and you will be more naturally feel good and be able to romance your wife more and, compliment her and grab her when she passes by and say nice things, because you will feel them. They will not be fake. But the more you have resentments, the more you don't actually feel like doing that. When you do it, it's actually kind of fake. I say that these chats are about magic and common sense. They're commonsensical because they're nature, and that's how nature works. And they've worked for like millions of years in humans and animals. And they're magical because of how, contrary to what we've led to believe, they work so well.
Yeah. It's magical because it's like you said, it's contrary to what you would believe because you're having to rewrite your code, right? To align with actually what is more in line with nature, with what that's the
What
paradox.
works? What
Yeah.
works? What works? What works? What works? Rudy Giuliani is a bit of a clown, but back then he became famous and got into politics because he was the mayor of New York and he instituted the zero tolerance policy and three strikes and you're in jail. And he also put people in the subway. He put big turnstiles, then he put people that would clean every night the graffiti. So there would be no graffiti left there. So those people who did graffiti and soiled everything would know that their art will not remain there. And they cleaned up everything and they fixed broken windows. And he made New York. I'm not saying that I admire this guy because there's many other things that he's done that are not good, but I'm talking about this particular kind of like part of his career. He made New York from one of the most dangerous cities and unkept cities in the world to one of the safest. I was young and I was in Harlem and it was like everything was broken and all the windows were broken. There were barrels in the streets of people burning stuff and there were like graffiti everywhere and everywhere dirty and garbage everywhere and so on and so forth. And after some years, I went to Harlem, and Harlem was like Southern California. It was like pristine. I couldn't believe. I couldn't believe it looked like a luxury mall. I said, "This is Harlem." Harlem, where people were afraid to even walk there, and yes, it is Harlem. And
It's
now they're reversing this, and you get like in San Francisco, in the center, and in Hollywood and in the streets, there's thousands of homeless who have rats and they sit there and they're full of illnesses and they're junkies who shoot up all the time and they do all that because now they're nice and they make it horrible for everybody else and they keep these people as victims because they're not obliged to have a job, they're not obliged to do something with their lives, they're like given food, they're given money. And this is insanity, and this is what we're fighting inside. We're depressed because the world doesn't make sense. And that's why my workshop works, because we examine these things.
mm,
And you can make clear choices and choose the belief system you want for the goal that you want. And if your goal is to be considered the most virtuous and philanthropic and nice person in the world, then of course you're going to be miserable.
mhm.
And if your goal is to be happy and give the good example to your kids and other people to live happy lives and to actually give the needy deals instead of charity and take them out of their victimhood instead of sinking them in it, then accordingly your life will be a reflection of your choices.
I love that, the idea that our lives are our choices are our souls, that our life is a reflection of the choices we've made.
But
Yeah.
it's obvious, because you have like all these like science fiction movies like Battlestar Galactica and The Bicentennial Man with Robin Williams and all these
Mm.
things, where clearly humanity understands that if a machine acquires real choice, if a machine can break its programming and do something different, then it's no longer a machine and it's a human. It has a soul. Because your soul is your choice. But if you have no choice and you have to follow your programming, then of course you're a machine. But humans can do that. Like before the 1960s, the hippie revolution and so on, before the invention of the pill, everybody was supposed to wear a tie, get a house with a picket fence, and have like 2.5 kids and a wife, and live the good life. But then the majority of the world changed their beliefs and they turned into hippies and started, having feelings for men and women to be able to pursue careers and do all that. The same thing applies to people who have been raised in very deeply religious environments where they can change their beliefs and then can go and be completely different. Yes. Or like communism and capitalism or whatever kind of beliefs you have. So when a machine acquires choice, it acquires a soul. And you can very intuitively understand this. If I take one of those like biological bodies or like a dead person
Yeah.
that is freshly dead, and I implant a computer in him, in his brain, to control the nerves and everything and move the hands and do what it's told, it's not going to have a soul. But if that machine is given choice, then suddenly it acquires a soul. It's not only in humans a soul. We have, as I told you, an amazing new kitten, Sashimi. He's about this big and fluffy and super cool. And his choice, he decides what to do all the time. You call him, he might come, he might not come. He may do something unpredictable. And when you look at his eyes, you can feel the soul. But I cannot feel the soul of a laptop. It's going to do whatever I tell it or whatever the program it has in it. So yes, if you substitute the word soul for choice, it will work every time.
But it's interesting how so many of us in society and life, like I know I was like this before, again, the workshops, and you talk to people with their belief systems that are so deeply rooted, like you say, who have never questioned their belief systems, that they just accept who they are based on the stories they've been told about themselves from their family members, from their religious institutions, and it's just, oh, well, Greg's like this because he's always been like this. And this is how we've always known him to be. And he could never be this or that because these are these beliefs that people.
That you don't have choice. You are who you are.
You don't have choice, that you can't, like on your last podcast, your last episode, I loved when you talked about being inspired by the limitless potential of humanity and what you've witnessed. And, but anyway, I just think it's talking about choice and the soul that it's just crazy to me how it's so untapped for so many people. They don't realize that actually, and I was trying to think about myself before the workshops, and I must have thought I had a little bit of choice, but clearly, nothing like now.
It's like so obvious that we're all a result of our choices. Yeah. So you know me with a shaven head, and now I'm having curls. I'm starting to have curls, right? So a different look, right?
Mm-hmm.
I made this choice, so now I'm making this choice. But you are like a marketing guy, a sales executive, but you can be anything. Like I was a textile executive, and now I'm in the jungle of Peru with waterfalls and big blue morpho butterflies. I've created here a paradise. We even have this for a game room, just for us at the game. And people cannot imagine. You cannot imagine that you could be something else. That you could be, I don't know, a businessman that has a chain of restaurants in Venezuela, or you could have a bar on the beach in Barbados, or you could do anything. Your choices are restricted by your belief about what is available to you and what is not available. And basically, if you want to evolve your soul, since your soul is your choice, you need to systematically give yourself more choices. For example, everything you learn, every new skill gives you more choices. If you learn how to sail, then you have the choice to sail your own boat. If you learn how to cook, then you have the choice to cook nice meals for your friends and for yourself. If you learn another language, you have more choices because you can communicate directly with more people. Every experience you have, so the more experiences you have, the more choices you have. So you can actually very practically evolve your soul and keep evolving it. And mainly the main limits are your own beliefs. Oh, I could never do that. So for example, I could never not be in Canada, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But why not? So basically what I do in my work, if you give me any belief, I can demolish you in 3 questions. So you give me belief, and the first question I'll ask you is, why exactly do you believe this? And that's where 99 of the people would be stumped.
Yeah.
99%, they will just say, like I've never thought of, there's a reason for me to believe something. It's just true or untrue.
Yeah.
But then you ask them, do you believe the same things now that you believed 10 years ago? And will you believe the same things that you believe now in 10 years? Yes, obviously you can believe some of the things the same, but most of the things through your experiences, new knowledge and new things have changed. And in the future, if you say, I'm not going to believe anything different, that means you're not open to learning anything new or having any new experience.
Hmm.
So obviously everybody says, yes, of course, I don't believe the same things. So are you always wrong? Are you never right? How can that be? Is it good for you to be always wrong? Since whatever you believe today, you may not believe tomorrow. So unless you can examine your beliefs at any given time and find out why you believe them and see whether they serve your purposes or not, and be able to change them if they're not, you are a non-evolved, not a free soul.
Hmm.
So, next question.
So on this note of examining your beliefs, um, you know, you used to do ayahuasca in the workshops, and like, I'm curious. I've never done ayahuasca, but I don't feel like I need to because of how you've done the workshops, and been able to just, as you just mentioned, so simply ask a series of questions to uncover belief. But my question is, my question is, how have you found that doing a workshop without ayahuasca has benefited people?
So to start with, ayahuasca is a psychotropic drug that is used for many therapeutic purposes for thousands of years. It's a heavy psychotropic and hallucinogenic plant. It's a combination of 2 plants, and it's extremely effective. It unleashes the subconscious and protected memories and all kinds of things, and gives you insights and so on and so forth. I studied ayahuasca for many, many years, and guided people into it for many, many years. There are the sirens. At around 6 o'clock here, the cicadas sing. Can you hear like a drone? And they sing, and they do this in sun up and sundown, like clockwork. You know, it's between 6 and 6:30 when the cicadas start singing. Anyway, I digress. So in 2017, I had already experimenting for some time to understand the ayahuasca very deeply and to find out the elements that make it work. And then the ayahuasca herself guided me to stop using it. She told me to trust, and she told me as a figure of things, she showed me. And then gradually I didn't want to, because also it was like a big source of income for this place, because people come for the ayahuasca, you know. So the cicadas again. It's gonna pass.
It's funny, I can't, I think the Zoom filters it out, so I can't hear them.
Oh, that's
But,
very good. That's very. If you can hear me, then I'll talk over it.
Yeah.
So then I started experimenting in producing the effect of the ayahuasca without actually drinking it. And we did the first workshop in Canada in 2017 because many people have problems that they cannot take this drug, like Crohn's syndrome in the stomach or heart problems or things like that. And we're not going to do anything illegal. It's illegal in places like Canada. Some people cannot travel for a reason. So we tried that, and it was extremely effective. So then in 2010, mid-2018, we phased out the ayahuasca. And we started doing workshops without ayahuasca. This like destroyed our business models. Suddenly all our workshops were empty because people wanted the allure of the ayahuasca and the experience. And it took a long time for it to grow up again. But in your workshop that was like some time ago, like 4 years ago or something, 5, we were doing some of that. So you had the experience of going under and having this ayahuasca without ayahuasca guided meditation kind of thing.
Yeah.
And now we've developed it very, very much. So it's extremely effective. So people get to go into a face-to-face discussion with the subconscious extremely effectively. They don't have all the bad effects of putting something into their stomach, like the vomiting and all this kind of stuff that can happen, or so on and so forth. They recover much faster, and it's much more effective and fast. So now our workshops, they have a lot of ceremonies, guided meditations, yes, of ayahuasca without ayahuasca. So we haven't given up on the tool. We have substituted it. Because, you know, if you see an insight under a drug, then later you may say, oh, this was just because of the psychotropic effects. It wasn't really me, and you can see anything under psychotropics or feel anything or be influenced by somebody else. But if you see the insight with nothing like this intervening, yes, and the guided meditation is just to get you there. And then, of course, you know, everybody in the room gets different answers because it's like personal. So if you do that, you can never doubt it. You have no doubt that it came from inside you, whatever insight you found out. So in this manner, it's much more effective. Plus, we can even have 3 ceremonies about 3 different things in a heavy day. Works with ayahuasca, not only does it take like most of the night, but then, of course, in the morning you are unslept and dead, and then you have to do the sharing, and then it takes like so much time that could be used for other purposes. And it's still her, it's still the ayahuasca, it's still the same effect. Much more now than in its nascent steps when you had the experience.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I remember, it's funny you say that because it's almost like I forgot, but you're right. Like we had ayahuasca-like experiences. Again, I haven't done ayahuasca, the drug, before myself, but people who have done both the ayahuasca like workshops before, and then the more recent Choice OS and advanced workshops would say like, oh, the ayahuasca is in the room, and it's like, oh yeah, I know what that feeling is like. Okay, feeling the energy and tapping into and speaking to the subconscious.
With many people that have taken ayahuasca many, many, many times, and they all testify, extremely experienced people, that they get the same feeling and the same energy.
Hmm.
And I tell you again, it's much more developed now than in your time.
Hmm.
And at some point, you must consider, you and Julia, maybe like in a couple of years, to, or even before, to come to another advance, to learn new stuff,
Yeah.
and to experience this again. Now we're also capable of holding children because we have our own babies.
Hmm.
So even with children, you can do that. And I'm not trying to sell you a workshop. You know me. I'm
Hey,
just
I know
telling you that,
I'm ready. I'd love to
I'm
go to
telling
one.
you, there's a lot of new stuff, a lot
Yeah.
of new stuff, and it's much easier now. Whether you leave your kids to grandpas, which is a very nice idea,
Hmm.
or whether you need to bring them, it's now feasible.
Yeah.
But because this is a developing work, it's a research into human happiness. So it never ends. And with the good and evil part that you haven't experienced, which is like super powerful, fills
Mm.
in all the puzzles, it is everything changes. Everything changes.
Yeah. I've definitely heard. I just literally of that. That's it. Like just good and evil is an explorative. It's a topic. It's a area that you dive into and questioning what is good and evil. And uh, I'm definitely enticed. I want to dig in and learn more.
Yes, because what I found out is that we're supposed to have free choice, but we don't.
Hmm.
Because nobody can do something that they believe is morally right.
Yeah.
They can be a criminal and they can say, I'm going to kill, all these people. But even the worst criminal, even the most insane person, they have an internal justification. It could be that that's what everybody does. I need to defend myself. You got to be a wolf and not a sheep, or whatever kind of belief where they justify whatever they do. So basically, you're restricted by what you believe is right and what you believe is wrong. So a question comes: do you know why you have this belief? Have you examined if it's right or wrong? Do you have choice? So basically, your morality commands you. You cannot do something that you think is wrong, but many times you can do great damage because there's something that you have been taught is wrong, but if you do it, it's beneficial to everybody. So it's a whole new world where another door opens where you actually examine not just your beliefs, but the whole reality of perception of good and evil and right and wrong. So basically, you can actually achieve great freedom in your life. And you no longer examine the world as what is right and what is wrong, because what is right and wrong is wrong changes with society, changes all the time, all the time.
Mm.
A few years back in the United States, if somebody came into your house, you could shoot them for free. Yeah. I mean, all kinds of things, even defending yourself. It used to be that everybody's innocent until proven guilty. And we see nowadays allegations of like something sexual, some impropriety about somebody makes them instantly guilty, losing their jobs and doing things like that and being destroyed,
Mm.
cancelled. So morality changes. If you were in the 1950s and you're daughter at 20 got laid before marriage, you will be devastated because she's a whore and she's spoiled. And she should have waited until her marriage. And if you're today and your daughter is 20 years old and she hasn't gone late, you take her to the psychiatrist and say, "What's wrong with my daughter? All her friends have gotten laid and she cannot get laid." So, like, morality is a very relative thing.
Mm.
So now illegal migrants cross with boats and they go to the UK, and in the past they would sick them, so nobody would go. And nowadays they give them luxury hotels and money and everything, and so now they're full. They have millions every year. Yeah, hundreds of thousands at least. And now so what's morality? And I would say that a good thing is something that brings more benefits to you and most people. And a bad thing is something that brings no benefit to anybody.
Mm.
So it's a different way of seeing the world. But of course, like everything, you gotta come to a workshop. That's why I don't think you should be in an advance, because we don't deal with this anymore in the advances. You should come to a new Choice OS, and there's a lot of new material, and it's gonna totally change. But again, this is not an advertisement for a workshop, and you're leading me there, and everybody will think it's on purpose, and it's a message from my sponsor. So ask me a question.
Well, if we want to go back to, childcare, Julia, parents, that type of example. So right now, Phoenix is home from daycare, right? When Phoenix is at daycare normally during the week, very nice. He's there, he's having a great time. That frees up Julia. She's now at home just with the baby, one-on-one, very nice. Now we're over the Christmas holidays, so we have this week and next week where he's just home with us, which is great to see him. But
How old is he exactly?
he's exactly just turned 19 months,
Okay.
so about a year and a half.
Yeah.
And my point here and is for this week and next week he's home, which is great to obviously see him more. With my job, it's, as you know, like sales, it's end of the year, and I still have to work, throughout. I've got some holidays. I've got today, part of today off, tomorrow, Christmas, and so on. But I'm going to be working Thursday, Friday this week. I'll have New Year's off next week. I'll be working a little bit, right? So next week we'll have family leave. I'll be working some of the week to again support our family. But I think Julia is freaking out about the idea of, and she did have a C-section, so that's important to note. But she's freaking out about the idea of her just looking after both of them without me while I'm working to support the family. So, what are your thoughts on that, Mikis?
You have created this. You have created this. We have kids here in Tierra Mítica, and the women, they keep 2 kids and they also work and things like that. You have created this exactly. You should have one of these parks and put Phoenix in that park with lots of toys, and he should occupy himself most of the day. Trying to have the responsibility of entertaining a kid and engaging it all day is insane. So the first time you're gonna do that, he's gonna cry, he's gonna want attention. But if you persist, he's gonna realize this is the thing, and he's gonna be very happy playing in his park, which will be very engaging for his intellect, because kids develop more clever and more intellect if they have to figure out things by themselves and they engage themselves. If you try to constantly play with them and engage them, you're doing a criminal act. It is not natural. And you have created this. You have created the situation where it's difficult with Phoenix because you need to engage them all the time. You need to engage them zero, except when you really feel like it. The rest of the time, he should be discovering the world. And put him in one of those safe parks with a soft floor, and they sell them. And We leave our kids. We have every morning, as you know, we have our community meeting that lasts like a couple of hours. The babies are being fed, and they're going to be put in a room next door, and they're just there. It's like a park there because of big mattress, and they deal with themselves. And the mothers are not slaves. Sometimes they let them cry a little bit if they know they're fed and they're cleaned, and that's okay. And after a while, they sleep, and the kids are happy. Now we're making our whole playroom where it'll be watched by cameras, and it'll be all soft inside, and then they can have this giant play park and do their thing. Nobody here feels that they need to engage their children 24/7. And it's insane. Yes? In another life, Julia would have 7 kids. And she couldn't even think of telling you to do something because you'll all the day at work, which you are. So it's insane to even think that there's any responsibility to engage this kid 24/7. You engage them 10, 15 minutes, and then they have to spend 2 or 3 hours by their own. And then you don't have to do anything. All you have to do now that you fucked up, you need to fix it and make him a little unsatisfied for a few days. Don't worry, he's not going to be traumatized for life. He will survive this like billions of kids since the beginning of time, that they're not the center of the world, and they don't have a dedicated person spending 24/7 occupying them. And then you're just going to do what thousands of generations have done before you, that actually led humanity to be like 8.5 billion and live to be 80 instead of live to be 30. And it's turned out pretty good. So you've done it to yourself. If Julia is unsatisfied and Phoenix is unsatisfied, good. Let them deal with it and decide to be satisfied.
Yeah.
When we first got Sashimi, the little cat, Lisa is my wife. She tried to give Sushi, our first cat, extra goodies all the time. Things that are reserved for only twice a week treats. And she gave him 3 or 4 a day to placate her. Yeah. She was getting worse and worse. Aggressive, blah, blah, blah. Said, no, we should do the opposite. Why are we rewarding her for being an asshole? She said, no more goodies. She's going to get goodies when she's nice. And suddenly, she's starting to be nice. What a surprise. So if you want to reinforce a behavior, go ahead. If you want to reinforce a son that is needy and needs constant engagement instead of like involving himself and his intellect to learn things and become stronger and more clever, then, if you decide that you want to engage with him 24/7, deprive him of that so that you feel that you're a good parent, then go ahead. You're going to suffer the consequences. Your kid's existence will be annoying to you. That's what Julia's doing. The fact that she has Phoenix in the house is annoying to her. Do you think that the kid, even at 19 months, does not know that, does not feel it in the air? Kids understand symbolism and even the mannerism and the oofs and the offs and all this kind of like thing. They understand that. Because she can't let him cry. For her, she is making him suffer. And for her, she is making herself suffer. And actually not being a blessing that her kid is in the house, rather a problem. Do you think this is healthy? Do you not think that it would be much nicer for the energy of the house if it was a blessing when the kids are at home? Because you don't let them fuck with you. You decide. But it's your fault because you're collaborating with this.
Yeah.
It's your fault. You're not playing your role to set the limits and put the boundaries in everything. People without boundaries, they're unhappy because they're constantly dissatisfied about something. Then within the boundaries, they can feel safe. And of course, if Julia is being a bitch, that brings your libido down. If she's dominating you, telling you what to do, that brings your libido down. Then she feels undesirable. She already feels undesirable because she's like, the body changes with pregnancy and all of that. So you're reinforcing all that. You're taking each other apart because you want to be nice. Go ahead and be nice and destroy your family, my friend. Make it a grudge being around each other. And that's how many people do, so you won't be an exception. You will be part of the crowd. But you have the great prize of being nice instead of the prize of making yourself and your family happy. So it's a choice. You want to be nice or you want to be happy?
Definitely happy.
Well, then you got to make the right choices and stop focusing on being nice and focusing on doing your job.
Yeah.
So, next question, my friend. It seems that the tune this week is babies and children and rearing families. So,
Parenting advice, relationship advice.
Yes.
Well, one question I had for you, Mikis, was the election, Donald Trump getting in. For me, again, prior to the workshop beliefs, I was very much in the liberal camp growing up. My beliefs, my people around me, my education, and so on. And then Trump was elected in 2016, and I remember that was such a shock again before the workshop. And then he was elected into power again just recently, and now my beliefs have completely shifted, and as to have the mindsets and the beliefs of I think the parties in a lot of ways too, which has been interesting to see the evolution there. But what do you make of everything that's transpired? And again, this could probably be an entire whole episode on its own, but just maybe at a very high level, what are your thoughts?
So it's very simple. Donald Trump is not a rare phenomenon. It's happening all over the world. Donald Trump is more famous because the United States of America and blah, blah, blah. So there is Milei in Argentina. There is Viktor Orban in Hungary. Marine Le Pen is coming up and is #1 in France. Yeah. And the liberal people, they're trying to stop them with every means and every illegal means possible. Donald Trump, they said very openly that we're going to shower him with indictments and court cases, most of them totally ridiculous. Like they put him up in New York, everybody knows that, like fraud, and they charged him like $500 million. And it's because apparently he oversaid the value of his items to Deutsche Bank. So Deutsche Bank came and said, we're very happy with this. Either way, we do our due diligence. All our customers try to get the benefit and give an evaluation that is higher, and we adjust. This is our job. And we have like a whole staff doing that. And we're very happy with the loans. We made money. He repaid us in time. We made our interest. was super happy. But no, they prosecuted him and he's for fraud and he's a felon and like disproportionate, like hundreds of millions of dollars, and wanting to shut down all his New York businesses and not allow him or his sons to have any business, blah, 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 blah. In France, Marine Le Pen won #1, and then the center liberal, that is Macron, made a deal with the communists to not field in the second round. They have 2 rounds there. In the second round, to field together candidates. So if he was more popular a communist somebody, the centrists would go down and vice versa. So then they won, the communists won, they kept her out. Yeah. And then he said, but I don't want the communists. So he put the prime minister they didn't like. He fell within 3 months. It's governlessness. It's happening everywhere. Because what used to be the liberals have become the most oppressive people of all. The virtue signalers attacking everybody. There is no law and order where people can steal without punishment because they make laws that make it so. There is no logic to letting murderers out of jail and then them committing murders the next week, which we have many incidents, especially in California, where they have this thing, rehabilitation, blah, 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 blah. They got no limits. They got no limits with the trans thing. Giving children hormones and mutilating them. They got no limits to the DEI, putting people in obligatory in boards of companies just because they have to have so many blacks and so many gays and so many trans and so many whatever's there. They went overboard with everything. The liberals today are the most illiberal people in the world. They tried to, how many trials did Trump get through? The trial about this woman, Amy, that, I don't know, 20 years ago supposedly raped her in a department store with 0 witnesses and nothing. She didn't talk about it like for 15 years, then she talked about it. And then Trump said, you know, she's not my type and I don't know this woman and I haven't done anything. And she hit him with a defamation suit. And first they got him $80 million for like damages to her reputation, of which she had none. She was like a failed writer, journalist or something. And then got him like $500 million punitive damages. It is like keeping him in court, the Georgia thing. And they're doing this all over the world. In Romania right now, they had elections. And unexpectedly, a conservative, right-wing, supposedly guy, that doesn't believe that we should be sending billions instead of making schools and hospitals for our children to Ukraine to keep a war alive forever that can never be won. Yes, that everybody considers like Putin is the evil and everybody else is the good. And somebody who doesn't believe in rampant immigration. You know, in the EU, they have a law now that if you don't receive and feed for free so many immigrants, you got to pay 25,000 euros penalty for each one. And it's the citizens of the country that pay that for illegal immigrants. So a guy like that came up, and we're talking about a Western European Union democracy. And you can't believe what they did. They canceled the election. Have you ever heard of a country canceling the election? You want to know the excuse? Their excuse is that the Russians did propaganda for this guy. That's why he won. So then the election is void. Have you heard of any election being void? Does that mean that people don't have choice to believe whatever they want? There's propaganda everywhere. And there's not even any real proof of that. They canceled the election. And they're doing this everywhere. All over civilized countries where they try to put everybody in jail. Yeah. in 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 so many countries. In Brazil, yeah, they're trying to put the guy in jail, the president. I mean, for nothing. The insurrection of 6th of January, like the coup. Has there ever been a coup without guns? Has there ever been a coup without an army? Has there ever been a coup where like just one person was hurt and that was one of the demonstrators and some cops died days after? You know, is that a coup? Is that like trying to overtake democracy? Who would ever think of that? And he even said, go and march peacefully, but that doesn't count. Like ridiculous shit, and they do it all over. Trudeau in Canada, he confiscated the money of the truckers who were demonstrating against COVID regulation. He took the money from donations. He took their trucks. He took that, like overtaking any kind of liberty. In Australia, jailing people because they had COVID and jailing them like in concentration camps. So the liberal have become the most illiberal. Nothing is permitted anymore. You don't even know what is not going to be permitted tomorrow, that they will punish you in retrospect. People are punished because they made like a Facebook post 25 years ago. People are persecuted because allegedly they sexually abused something 45 years ago. In New York, they suspended the statute of limitations for a year so that everybody from every place in the world can sue somebody in New York for sexual harassment or something without any statute of limitations, which means that if you kill somebody and 30 years have passed, nobody can prosecute you anymore. But for this, no, they suspend it for a year. It's like crazy. So you as a liberal, like Bill Maher, the comedian that also is a very fervent liberal, he said, this has gone too far. So you realize that the people that appear liberal are the most illiberal, the most fascist. They censor everything. They want to censor everything. Free speech doesn't exist anymore. Things that people talked about, that COVID may have originated from a lab in Wuhan, the vaccines don't stop transmission. So they told you if you don't take a vaccine, you're a criminal because you're endangering other people. That the masks are ineffective. All of these have been proven true. But people lost their jobs. People were shut down. People were fined. People had their life destroyed for trying to say something against the common narrative. So Trump, for me, is in many ways a buffoon. But Trump also has balls. And he has the balls to go against this. And this, probably the woke religion, is one of the worst things that has happened in the history of humanity, because it turns people against people. It does the opposite of survival of the fittest. It's survival of the weakest and the craziest and the most vulnerable. They even like say that a doctor can lose his license for telling a heart patient that their problem is that they weigh 300 pounds and they should lose weight. And they can lose their license. They obligate doctors, because there's different chemistry sometimes, different anatomy to men and women, to have to register the person that comes in, how they declare that is a man. And that's okay, it's a man, but actually, should we run a pregnancy test to find out what's wrong? But we can't, because it's a man. It's like nuts. So the liberal people have gone nuts.
Yeah.
And they just believe everything like sheep in mass. So every phenomenon is multiplying. the crazies are multiplying, the drug addicts are multiplying, the homeless are multiplying, the trans are multiplying, who have, by the way, 50% suicide rate, and we're creating more of them. We're doing this in the name of goodness. And any logical person will realize that you don't want your kid to go to school and make him stand up when he's 5 or 6 and apologize for being white and being a man for the evil that he has committed, like they did in Australia with 10,000 kids. So obviously, Trump has his eccentricities and the things that he does that I'm not in agreement with. But I do consider this is the best thing that would come to the world right now. And that's how so many people voted for him. And also all these other people around the world that are encouraged, that want actually to have common sense.
Yeah.
Common sense.
I'm not sure if you're familiar with Pierre Poilievre, the leader of the opposition for in Canada for the Conservative Party, but it seems like Trudeau's pretty much on his last legs. His party's imploding, and on him, they're all like resigning. And I think, it's great to see, like you said, the ripple effects that are happening around the world, and I think we'll follow suit in Canada, thankfully. So, one of the big platitudes is common sense.
People love Trudeau and his liberal policies for, I don't know, 10 years now. Yeah, however long. But what has happened to Canada in the last 10 years with all this benevolence and goodness? What has happened? Let me tell you, it has turned into one of the worst economies in the world. And you can see the numbers. It has less GDP per person today than it had 10 years ago. Now, they say GDP has risen a little bit, but that's because the more immigrants you import, the more GDP goes up, but GDP per capita is different per person. Canadians used to be able to buy a home with their standard of living and pay a mortgage 10 years ago when they were 28. Today, it is 37 and rising, according to official statistics. And the price of real estate is so high that many of them can never own a home unless they have 2 working parents and have really good income. And even they are being outpriced, where small apartments are starting to be worth multiple times what they were worth years ago. Why is this? Because all this regulation benevolent that makes it so difficult to build that the cost goes up high. So nobody has any chance of getting caught or not liking something. Yeah. And many other factors, of course. Nothing is monodimensional. So what has happened with all these benevolent practices? Canadians have a lower income. They have a higher crime. They have less satisfaction by any poll. They have lost many of their liberties. They see ridiculous things happening. Like if you're First Nation, all the doors are open to you. And somebody that has better grades than you is not getting into this place or this university, and just because of the color of your skin, you're getting in. All kinds of things. And you can't own a home. And people are actually leaving now Canada. Immigrants are coming in and Canadians are leaving. So the proof is in the pudding. The same thing happens in many countries. In Belgium, in Canada, in Sweden, in the Netherlands, we have Geert Wilders, who is now right-wing, extreme right-wing, they call it. If you don't want like everybody to come free in your country and live on social security and rape your daughter, And if you don't want to like price any farmers so they cannot farm anymore because you outlaw everything that they're able to do. So people are realizing that the so-called liberals are no longer liberal. And if you watch Bill Maher, who is extremely liberal, he talks about this all the time nowadays. And that's why people like Elon Musk turn to Trump. He is a classic liberal. But he says, like, this has got to be stopped. And whatever eccentricity or bullshit Trump has, it's worth it. Because the other is so much worse. It's a nightmare.
Yeah. Yeah, I
It's a
remember Musk
nightmare
saying,
for young people to not even be able to dream to have a home.
yeah. Yeah, I remember Musk saying on, I think it was on Joe Rogan podcast, that the stakes were so high for freedom of speech.
Exactly, exactly. And he saved freedom of speech because everything was censored.
Mm-hmm.
You couldn't say anything anymore. Like I've been warned on Facebook for saying nothing in particular. And on
Yeah.
Quora, yeah, we're going to discontinue you. They demonetize anything they don't like. And then if they don't like it enough, they close them down. They close so many channels. So yes, the stakes are very high. 1984, the novel by George Orwell, we're living it.
Mm-hmm.
There's something called doublespeak, where
Mm-hmm.
they speak and say two totally contradictory things, and then they force people to bite. And when they bite, they're docile like lamb. This is exactly the society we live in. And
Yeah.
that's exactly what happens with Julia. She reads all these books and studies all this stuff, and she hears all this stuff about how she is not a good mother unless she blah 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 sacrifice everything for her child. Then her whole body rebels. She says, no, it's your fault, Gregory, because you're not helping enough.
That was a good tie-in. That was a good thread.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all, well, it's like you said earlier, right? Everything's all related. So, yeah.
Yeah. You see, me and my wife were watching a series, The Crown, about the
Mm-hmm.
royal family.
Yep.
And there was an
Yep.
episode about the divorce of Diana and Charles. And the style of the directing in the episode was that they showed inside the same kind of like reporting place where they talked about it, to the judge, 3 or 4 or 5 different couples until they got to their case. And it was very interesting. In every single couple that were picked, I don't know, at random on purpose, it was the woman who had divorced the man. And the biggest reason was unrelated to Diana and Charles, because theirs was like adultery everywhere. They chose random couples, and it was every single time it was one thing: women divorcing the men because they worked too hard and it didn't give them enough attention to their children. And one particular one said that, but we're in debt, and I had an opportunity to make a lot of money within, and I had to work overtime. They say, no, 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 no. It's not important the money because you need to have quality time with us. You say, well, but what do I do? We got to pay the bills. And she wouldn't hear of that. Now, I have right now a Canadian couple that's in crisis that's actually going to come to my workshop. Thank God if they get there, because they're like about to split up, with one little child and one in the belly. And she doesn't want this marriage anymore because he spent this time, which was ideal for him, the holiday period, to make $30,000 Canadian in like 2 months and pay off their debts. And she can't take it anymore because she's not giving her support. I would like to see her with 2 babies alone, taking a little bit of child support and then having to work and keep the kids and do all these things. People are insane by not understanding. Because if you take a person to the limit, If Julia is always dissatisfied with you because you're trying to provide for your family, then what's going to happen? One day it's not going to be pleasant to you. And it's going to be so unpleasant that you will be suffering every day. And then you're going to say, fuck you. And then you're going to get with another woman. And then you're going to say, oh, he wants the young one. That's why he left me. No, he didn't leave you because of that. He left you because you were constantly a bitch and dissatisfied, and you didn't give him a safe haven for a home. If you want him to appreciate what you do, appreciate what he does. So if he fucking needs to take a call in the car, bitch, tend to your children so they don't make any noise and disturb them instead of complaining to him. Disturb him. But we all have to be super nice, and you have to say, to apologize, say yes, I shouldn't be taking this call. No, you should be taking the call. So yeah, I am as hateful as Donald Trump to people. Because I just say shit that works. So yeah, I'm not like a supporter of Donald Trump, but right now I am, because he's the best guy for the job. And I'll tell you another reason why he's the best guy for the job. He's already the most famous or most infamous person in the world. He's got billions. Doesn't matter he's got one or he's got five or he's got 10, doesn't matter. He is second time president of the United States. He's going to be 80 something by the time he finishes. 82 or something, he's 78, I think. He doesn't need any money. He doesn't need anything else. He cannot be reelected, and either way, he would be way too old to be reelected. So he's the kind of guy that has nothing to lose, that the only thing he can do at the end of his life is do the right thing. So I believe he's going to do a lot of good. He's going to do harm as well. Yeah. I hope his tariff thing is not serious and he's just threatening everybody, which usually is his tactic because he doesn't really mean shit. But if he does it, it will not be very good either for the United States or the world. But other things are more important, like stopping wars and averting wars. Like we're taunting China all the time and trying to provoke war. We're provoking war with Russia, nuclear war. We're doing crazy things. The liberal people that used to say, I was also kind of hippie. We used to say, make love, not war, you know, and all of that. And now the warmongers are the liberals that has spent unprecedented amounts of money for a war that doesn't concern anybody, who they created by the 2014 coup. Yeah. So the government of Ukraine is a produce of a coup, an overthrowing of a legally elected government. But, you know, we're crazy. Yes, of course, Trump can stop this war in a second. I can stop this war in a second. All I need to do is sit down with Putin and sit down with Zelensky and say the following. Guys, here's the deal. It's a very simple deal. You, Zelensky, you're going to accept that Crimea was never yours, never going to be yours. Crimea, you're going to accept that the Luhansk and Donetsk is like 80% Russian ethnicity. You're going to leave it alone. We're going to make it a demilitarized zone controlled by UN people. And you're going to accept the fucking status quo. And in exchange, we're going to give you some money to fix your country up. Much less than what you got for putting bombs and killing people, of course, but we're going to help you. You, Putin, you're going to accept this, and you're not going to do nothing, and you're going to withdraw everything and keep everything clean and accept everything, and we're going to stop the sanctions that are punishing also all the people in the world by creating inflation and doing works, and actually Russia is doing more fine than anybody thinks. And if any one of you has any single objection to anything I say, including my liking to fart in the negotiations and smell really bad, you, Zelensky, I withdraw all support, and you're on your own. And out come the satellites, and out come everything, and fight on your own, and see if you're going to have a country in 6 months' time. And you, Putin, I'm going to put even more sanctions on you, yeah? And I'm going to give Ukraine triple the weapons. So I sink your economy. You want to be heroes and bring peace and stop people dying? You accept what I say without a single word. And it'll be done because nobody can afford the alternative. And all these people who die are going to stop dying. All these young people that are dying now, and all this destruction of property. End of story. We want to maintain a stupid war forever? So yeah, he's going to do good shit. And so do other people around the world that rebel against the idea that liberals have the right to think for everybody, impose the progressive way of thinking on everybody, whether you like it or not. The lesser of two evils, my friend.
I agree.
So yes, I would very pro dunking Trudeau down the toilet, never having anybody like that again. And I am fully ecstatic that Trump won. Although a few years ago, I wouldn't say that. But that's the point of beliefs. You can change them if they don't serve you.
Right. How they evolve.
For example, the conservatives in the US, they're very against abortion. They say killing a kid, killing a baby is a crime. I fully don't agree. I believe that abortion should be there. And if you don't want the child, you should be having it. Yeah? And you should be able to abort. But in the whole of Europe, there is no limitless abortion. The progressive want limitless abortion. To be able to take a baby out at 8 months, 7 months, 8.5 months was fully viable. And that indeed is murder. That they believe that they should take no contraception and just abort one child after another, leading like to one-member families and like destroyed families and all this kind of thing, and just like aborting for no reason. So yes, I believe abortion should be legal. Should it have limits? Absolutely. If a baby is viable, you can't just abort it because you change your mind.
Yeah.
You had all the time. First month, second month, third month, fourth month, fifth month, enough. Yeah? So, yes, it doesn't mean that you choose a side, my friend, and take hook like line and sinker like a herd animal, everything this side says. You should choose what's beneficial to you and your way of life, but you don't have to take everything piecemeal, like the progressive are required to do, obliged to do. Otherwise, they're shunned, they're ostracized, they're canceled, they're destroyed.
Yeah.
This is not liberalism, my friend.
Yeah.
And I have many liberal ideas, but everything to me has a limit. Everything has parameters. It's not like you got to take the whole thing without any doubt, you know? Have faith. No, you can't have faith. Things got to prove it themselves to you, like unconditional love. Have faith now. Explain it to me. Why? So the first question I will ask anybody, they tell me, I believe A. Why exactly do you believe this? And as I told you, 99% are destroyed by this question because they never thought of it. And then the second question after the answer is this belief the most beneficial to you? And there you lose the rest because nobody thinks in these terms.
Yeah. How is this belief serving you or not serving you?
Exactly. Serving you and those that you love.
Yeah. It's a great diagnostic to just remember. Um, Mikis, I feel like we've gone through a time portal. It's been, I can't believe it's been 3 hours.
It's been 3 hours.
Yeah.
Wow. That's a
Yeah.
long one. Some people said they wanted a longer one. So
Well, here,
we did a long one.
yeah.
So the last thing I will say, thank you, Gregory, for contributing and participating in this second episode of Dungeon Chats, chats about common sense and magic. And give a hug to Julia and the kids. It was very, very nice having you. Thank you.
I will. Thank you, Mikis. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Want to play RPG in our dungeon? Would you like us to make you a small, medium, or huge custom-made sculpture? Or even your own castle? Contact us at contact@fantasyscaping.com.